Lights, camera, action, and we are rolling now. Well, we're not in a good mood today, so let's look at scary scenarios. There, I got you backlit just for you. Hang on a second, I'll close that. The sun is out. It's been very strange lately, and it got cold. Let's pull this closed and bear with me, campers. Boom. Ah, yes, back in the Batcave. All right, let's review. What did we hit yesterday? The possibilities of placebos being mixed in with, hang on a second, we got to pull the sleeve up. And there we are. Greetings. Good morning, campers, and we are live, in case you couldn't tell. Look at that, a beam of sunlight shining through. How apropos. So I don't know, I had put the thing off and now it's on, and then we're getting delays. And yesterday people said, I'll turn the chat on. The chat was on. It took forever to process that. And now the chat is available, which is meaningless. So right now it's supposedly on, but it might be off. So we'll work with it because we're live. So the review, let's hit this quick, and then we have some scary thoughts, very unpleasant. First, we talked about the potential for placebos, how many saline shots are blended in with the massive distribution of these warp speed, non-animal tested vaccines that are experimental, being administered through an emergency use authorization, while pharmaceutical companies have no liability for any damages. Question one, that was addressed. Question two, or point two, we had this guy, David Gergen. Fascinating. If you watch the clip called Dark Winter, which is the top link yesterday, short clip, very important, you see that this guy has now gravitated from multiple U.S. presidents to Klaus Schwab. What does this tell you about this character? He is like honest Iago from Othello. Not the power behind the throne, but the manipulator behind the throne. I'm thinking like what do they call those fish that swim with the sharks? Not the lamprey eels, but they could be seen that way too, but that's freshwater. You've got the remoras, right? They kind of troll with the sharks. They pick up the scraps when the shark chomps something. These guys kind of eat the scraps. I don't know, but they don't steer the shark. I think this guy is into steering. He's all about power. And I don't know if he's trying to implement his agenda or find people who are power crazed and just wants to continue to bolster them and teach them how to do it to make himself an indispensable party to their power crazed agenda. Just a thought. You decide. Very important clip. This guy, that jumped out at me. That blew me out of the water. I'm like, wow, check this guy out. This is an advisor to multiple U.S. presidents, and now he's advising Klaus Schwab. I don't know. Should there be limitations on people that are allowed to work? What if he wants to go be an advisor to Rothschild or be an advisor to, any other world leader in a different country? Curious. There's no restrictions on that? Oh, wait. Maybe Trump's old lawyer, Cohen, wrote the non-disclosure and the non-compete contract. There you go. Joke. That was the ones where you had Stormy Daniels out after they had a non-disclosure that they called hush money, and it was essentially unenforceable because it was all disclosed. Wow. Brilliant work, counselor. Brilliant work hiring that guy. But was it for that, or was it for his father-in-law who could sell shares in Trump Towers to the Trump organization? I don't know. And the third, which is important, and I did get feedback from Miss Zilka in Berlin, Germany. She did take a listen. Let me get this here so we have good audio. She took a listen to Reiner Fuellmix's film that I put up, where the police came and interrupted the meeting, the political meeting, And she translated. I said, just give me a general thing. And what she said was, first, the police asked and advised them that they needed a permit. They needed a permit to have that meeting. Excuse me. So then Reiner was there and explained, no, they don't need a permit. Then the second bone of contention or hassle by the police was compliance with the mask wearing nonsense and whether or not the public facility there, a bar or a restaurant, was in compliance. Isn't that interesting? And that Reiner was telling people to stay calm and don't give these guys any reason to hassle and or arrest. And that, then if you watch it, it's worth watching. I think it's at the 2 hour and 5 minute mark, although it's all in German. Take a look. And the cops leave. And the cop he had his face mask on. It's always comforting to know that law enforcement who have guns, the ability to take your life or handcuffs and remove your liberties, are wearing masks so you can't look at them. Isn't that what terrorists used to do? Remember the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Army? They used to wear their masks so that when they would go do things, terrorist activities that wouldn't be identified. Now suddenly we've got our guys in special forces. We have SWAT teams and police departments wearing masks. And now everybody's wearing masks. But I guess that's what happens when you have IDF training in American police forces. Why is that? I wonder. Is that just a way of further supporting a foreign country with American dollars? Here, we'll pay you guys to do this. Interesting. And lots of trips over there to have training there, as opposed to bringing them here. I've got a problem with that, but that's beyond the scope of this discussion. I have to discuss that with Harry and Brendan. And maybe George, because he wanted his kids to be members of the IDF. I'm still curious about that. Anyway, those were the 3 points to review, well worth looking at. The fourth was Dr. David Martin. I believe he's a PhD doctor, not a medical doctor. And he did a very thorough, and he is very meticulous and precise because of the nature of work he does, which is an investment and exploiting patents. And the language in patents, if you've ever looked at them or read them, is very precise. And you really have to be all-inclusive on some things because you're looking for the broadest coverage. And generally, the first application will be denied, but then you reapply and you narrow it down. Okay, so that's my understanding. I am not a patent guy, but I have had some peripheral dealings in those areas. So he is a patent guy, not per se, but he goes through the discussion of the mRNA vaccine and makes the point it is not a vaccine by definition. Now, in today's happy episode, before we get into scary, I've got a link. It's link number 2. And I don't remember who sent this to me. Yes, I do. It was Celeste. I haven't heard from him in a while. Thank you, Celeste. This is great. This is about a half-hour show. This is one of his butterfly shows where he discusses this. And I think the majority of that stuff hits at the 12-minute mark. This is in his office with his wife. And it's meticulous. But the thing from yesterday is a short clip that was done for a movie. Nobody told me where that came from. Can somebody please find that so we can watch the whole thing? Right? Now, I mentioned Pieczenik yesterday, and I'm looking at the list here behind the camera. And Pieczenik, this is from the Alex Jones Show. Now, this is a fascinating piece, and then we're going to do scary shit because it segues in. Pieczenik announces that he used Alex Jones for many years, for 20 years, in order to implement this protection of the U.S. government through the military and the agency in order to facilitate this and basically get the bad guys to show themselves, and that Trump will be president and all these other people will be arrested, etc. So this is the Q pitch, which sounds to me like the Q pitch must be a CIA story. Anyway, my belief is, and this is great psyop, if you are interested in that, and Jones is Jones, and I don't know if he's going along with it, or this was kind of smacked him left field, don't know. But if you followed any of Brendan's stuff, he's saying, and even the other guy, what's his name, Green, Adam Green, basically proved the connection of Jones and his personnel with the whole, what should we say it, foreign influence, the Israeli thing, the Roger Stone thing. Berge mentioned that, and the whole AI and the whole mess. Curious. And now you watch Pechenik do this and listen to him, and my belief, watching this, is that Pechenik is throwing bullshit in order to deflect it and change the position of they're really working for an Israeli insurgency instead of, take it away from that and just talk this shit. That Alex Jones was used, but he was used by Pechenik, not foreign interests. Curious. I'd love your thinking on that, campers. Good morning. We're in our Sunday black. We're surrounded by black. Now, let's begin today's show, shall we? But that's worth watching, I think. It becomes repetitive. And on this link, you don't have any commercials. Jones says, all right, we're going to break for a break. And then it's like, pop, we're back from the break. And it's just so repetitive, but it's fascinating. And fascinating. I did speak to George this morning, and the last link is George's huge tube, U-G-E tube, Mr. Blackberry's channel, right? And I figured I'd put that up for those of you guys who are looking to track him and follow him. And the last thing was from a couple of days ago where he is at the Capitol. It's a film from the Capitol, from the 6th, talking about the incursion. Interesting stuff. I'm going to see if I could grab him later and come on live with him, or at least record and put him up. We'll see. He's been crazy busy. He was doing a live stream when I tried to call him. It was tough to get hold of him this morning. I mentioned to him if he saw the Pechenik thing. And Pechenik's deal is, hey, if I'm wrong, I never come back on the show. And if I'm right, you give me a job there. Well, that doesn't sound like it's strong enough downside, does it? At the end, Jones says, no, if you're wrong, you're coming back on the show. And we get to address this. So I mentioned that to George. So George says, so basically he's just saying he's quitting. This is his last show. Yeah, that's a good point, George. All right, so first is Pechenik. That's the link on Jones's channel called Can'tCensorTruth.com, which is, I guess, the video side of his banned videos. That's where you get if you play it in a different window, and here it is. Second is David Martin. This is important stuff. Now, got a link towards the bottom here that is Mike Adams. Now, I think I mentioned him the other day. I think there's a lot of fluff, and I'll do a shout-out for Jim Duffy on this. Thank you, Jim. You put this up. What's good about Mike is he's not speaking as this is factual. This could be. Now, Mike's position is we are at war with China, and China will be militarily attacking us. Now, while he's running through, I disagree. But while he's running through this, the thought dawned on me, because he's saying and runs a list of military resources that are in Washington, and I'm very concerned about this, and I'm sure you are too. They're saying that there's 30,000 or 35,000 troops there. That's like a full fucking division. Why do we need that? I mentioned that to George, and George's theory is, oh, well, they're going to replicate the green zone, so they're going to make that the green zone, and the rest will be the plebes. We'll see. But I think there's something bigger than that. I think this is ripe for false flag, and these are the scary potential things, all right? So here's worst case. Well, I don't know. Let's go from bad to worse. Remember Club K? Hello. Remember those little shipping containers that have cruise missiles in them? They could be coming in from ports that are controlled by foreign agencies, like the port of Canaveral, that has the UAE contract for a lease for 35 years. Now, that was a big hit until the purported missile tried to shoot down Air Force One. What a great distraction to stop the internet buzz. Okay, suddenly it wasn't. But those things could be, I'm not saying they are, could be in the U.S., and they are a shipping container, a 40-footer, right? And they pick them up, and they could drop them on a train, stack them, they could ship them, Could be one high or two high, but let's say it's one high, and that train could stop. And according to Mike, he says these can be activated by satellite. So the pop pops up, the top pops up, 4 cruisies pop up, boom, they go. You're in close range. You're being attacked internally. Is it possible that the government and our military is aware of this? This is why they have such a massive presence there. The problem is nobody would know where they are. So we could have short-range attacks from missiles, according to Mike, and I'll put the link in. Take a listen to it. You know, you take a lot of it with a grain of salt, but discern. He said Patriot missile banks were set up in Tennessee, and they supposedly, and in my opinion, if they work, will take down these cruise missiles. What if cruise missiles are fired at other state capitals, power plants, water supplies, and other things? We could suffer a major war, remote control on our soil. So that's not good. Is it possible our guys know that and they're securing Washington? Don't know. When Mike runs through the list of the what should we say, the forces deployed, they're talking about Air Force wings and everything else up there. Air wings. So you've got planes. You've got F-16s. You know, so there's all kinds of stuff. This is serious, serious firepower. Okay, now, my happy little thought, and I say that facetiously, was that, you know, we'll have an attack. That'll be the perfect distraction. It'll give Biden the opportunity to declare martial law because we're under attack in the homeland, and suspend the Constitution and call it domestic terrorism. Now, I don't think that's going to fly if we have these KCAB cruise missiles flying, but here's a bigger problem. Let's assume multiple shots are fired in these missiles and many hit their targets. How do we respond? Who do we respond against? Question mark. Was it China? Was it Russia? Was it Iran? Was it Venezuela? Was it Cuba? No. So the bottom line is you're not going to know who to respond against because it's coming from within. Perfect. Insurgency, infiltration, or is the word infestation. Interesting. That's pretty disgusting. It's disturbing. So, with that in mind, campers, I filled up the car with gas, and I'm going to be making additional preparations because if that shit goes down, it's going to disrupt things for a while. So make sure you've got your supplies and you are prepared with your little lanterns and your cooking gas stove to have something good to eat. And Piglet will too. Oh, good. So that's that. The other side is you could have a bomb. Let's talk in hypotheticals, because these are all hypotheticals, right? What if a big bomb goes off? Is it a Lebanon-sized bomb? Is it in Washington, D.C.? Excuse me. I was chuckling. I was going to say, well, was it Baltimore? Okay? Because now we have Tom Clancy stuff. Baltimore. Now, and oh, wait, I've got to remind you. When you listen to Pechenik did write and co-wrote and or ghost-wrote or ghost-writed or written Tom Clancy stuff. So when you listen to his shit, and Tom Clancy was okay, his novels, I always thought you needed a blackboard or a chalkboard to kind of track, okay, what's happening, and then you jump from scene to scene to scene, 8,000 different directions, okay? So when you listen to him, realize he can fabricate a good story, right? And keep that in your back pocket or in your pipe while you listen to his show with Alex Jones. And Alex continues to bellow, and you can see his fat jiggling. And boy, that boy's getting big. He needs to take some of his He-Man pills. Oh, wait, he does. So that's Pechenik. All right, so let's talk hypothetical. So let's say a bomb goes off. Okay, there's your big distraction. They'll claim it's a domestic terrorist. And then, you know, you'll have lockdown. Now, what if, I ran this by my mom, she said, well, Pelosi wants to be president. So now, What if somehow Biden and Harris swear in and then they're both killed? Who becomes president? Okay, how crazy is that? Now the question then is, well, was there foreign assistance in getting that done? Okay, so we're talking in hypothetical because the link you really want to watch is, I don't have it here, but it's a film and it's brilliant by Adam Curtis, and that is a clip that, audio clip that Brendan used, and it was called The Power of Nightmares. It was a 3-part series. I mentioned it a couple of times, and a couple of years ago I put the link up. It's great because it basically says that politicians have run out of answers, so what they've done is twisted it. So people who come up with the worst case, what if, the worst nightmare scenario, rise higher in the ranks because then they can protect against it. Well, damn, they ought to have me spin them up because I could come up with some nightmare scenarios. And just remember something. Good men are dangerous. Those good men can come up with nightmare scenarios too. It doesn't mean they implement them, right? That's what makes them good. All right, just saying. And you guys know what I'm saying, and think about that, right? They control themselves, and they abide by civil law and moral reality, and they're just not complete psychopaths. Whereas the psychopaths maybe aren't as creative unless they have groups of them working under, say, a government-funded operation, and then they can all brainstorm and add and build on wackadoo plans and execute them. Yes. Wonder who I might be thinking of. Which agency could that be? Oh, that's a clue. All right. So that's your Pelosi thing. Now, let's go the other extreme. On the other hand, there's a good counter-argument. This whole thing might be a big nothing, a big show for nothing, and nothing happens, and the, what should we call this? The virtual inauguration goes without hitch. I don't think any Trump supporters are going to be there. I don't think Biden has many supporters other than his deep state friends, so it'll be empty. And if you look at what's going on, the razor wire has been confirmed, the barbed wire has been confirmed, and Kushner being kicked out of the White House has not been confirmed. And those chattering twits putting it out, are they real? Are they trolls? Are they AI? Mike, in his great discussion, which is lengthy, and I listened to it in the car last night, points out about the AI infiltration, which I don't know if he's heard Berge. You remember Berge? What does he call that? The IIA, Internet, I forget what it stands for, but the social media manipulation through computers with General Jones and what they did to facilitate insurgencies and disruptions from social media in Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere. And now it has been privatized magically, and now it's being run here. And the Smith Modernization Act allows that to occur. Okay? So maybe Mike is right. All of the crap out there. And he was, you know, we've all been saying, man, the amount of noise, background noise, and it's not white noise. It is just garbage that's being thrown. So that thing by Kushner being kicked out. I was talking to Meg earlier. I said, you want to check that? She couldn't find anything. I mentioned it to George. I said, is that real or is that bullshit? He said, I think it's bullshit. I do too. So where is there any other source other than people in comments or in live chat saying that? Somebody find it and post it, please. I'll pin it, and you get a gold star. Yeah. You don't think Breitbart would have picked it up? You don't think the New York Times would have picked that up and then spun it and said, oh, or the Washington Post and said, oh, Trump is blaming everybody else for his loss, and he kicks Kushner out of the White House. See, he's got to blame everybody else. He can't take responsibility. Can't you hear this kind of a headline? Unbelievable. All right. So I don't think that happened. Prove it. Okay. That's to you. Next. You remember our boy Sullivan, right? Number 3. I numbered them for you today. Oh, good. So 2 is David Martin. Important stuff. Pechenik is entertaining. It's a Sunday. Enjoy your day. And 3, remember our boy John Sullivan got picked up in Washington etc. And he was the guy who set up his own, what are we going to call this, an activist radical group. But he's a BLM kind of guy, and he's an Antifa kind of guy, but he's got his own group. Well, he was arrested. Okay, number 3 says, Sullivan released no bail. Really? Activist John Sullivan released conditionally without bail after arrest over Capitol building breach. Now, this happens in Utah. Curious. This is from the Epoch Times. And again, at the end of that link, I'm putting their link. Download our app to read more at. You really need to grab this because they are hitting relevant stuff. It's not the fake news. They may not be the best, but they are certainly more relevant, at least to what's going on, than the average bagel bender. All right? Sunday bagels? All right. I don't eat bagels, by the way. Too much garbage carbs. So this is curious, and there's a discussion in there, and it's decent reporting because they're talking about the scene in Utah, and the judge does it because the judge blames the federal prosecutor for not making a proper showing that this guy should be, what did he say, restrained or retained or remanded, okay? So the judge is blaming the prosecutor. Now, without diving deep into this, my question is, okay, so is it the judge or is it the prosecutor? But somebody managed to not make this stick. Yet, in there, the guy is ordered to stay off of social media. He's ordered to wear an ankle bracelet. He's ordered to get a job from a third party, and his lawyer says, well, it'll have to be a farm, so he has to have a phone to get a job on a farm. And somehow that needs to be a smartphone. It can't be a flip phone. So, you know, there's a lot of flack in that. And the court made the point that if this bail provision is violated, the court will not look kindly upon it. So that means there's no bail, but there's conditions, but they're calling it a bail provision. Interesting. Take a look. Decent article. It gives you a little more data on this guy. Now, interesting. Let's flip it to Florida. Number 4. Self-avowed hardcore leftist arrested, this is up in Tallahassee, for inciting violence at Florida Capitol. Now, we've got a lefty out there who is ex-military, very strange kind of a dude. Is this an MK Ultra dude? Who, he doesn't hate everyone. Well, wait, he does. Everyone who doesn't agree with him. So it's equal opportunity hatred. And he's basically saying that the Trump supporters that are purportedly going to show up in Tallahassee, Florida, should be rounded up at gunpoint. And I guess, is he saying shoot them, kill them, or just control them, restrict them, and censor their speech? He gets picked up by the FBI. It's a fascinating discussion. So now we see leftists are really the violent Bolsheviks that are accusing everybody else of being violent. And the media, in collusion with them, continues to say they are peaceful and the right. Now, kind of on a separate but relevant thing this morning, we're going to smoke. What is that? What's that quote? Smoke 'em if you got 'em. Is it popcorn time yet? I don't like popcorn. I like goobers and raisinets. It's showtime, boys and girls. This shit is crazy. Can you see that? A military attack on the Capitol in the U.S. from Club K missiles. Ted Lieu did the deal. Ted Lieu, L-E-W. No, that's not Ted. I'm sorry. It was Jack Lieu. Ted Lieu is spelled differently out of California. Don't want to attribute this kind of nonsense. So now, why is it that Trump didn't cancel these leases to the UAE and everybody, foreign governments in American ports? Why is that? Simple enough to be national security? Or he didn't know? And now do you feel responsible for not telling him? Will you regret not hollering at him and your representatives? and telling them these important things because of your complacency that says they don't listen anyway, well, now you'll never know. There's time. Monday is a federal holiday. Interesting. When's a happy day? When's the 20th? Is it Tuesday or Wednesday? Looks like it's Wednesday. Oh, so we have one day. That's good. That's called waiting till the last minute. Don't procrastinate. Wait till the day after and say, I told you so. So the leftists are there. So we've got this port, and it was never canceled. Why not? Rhetorical question. There was something else in here. Oh, yes. So I listened to the radio this morning. Your favorite station, NPR. There was no good music on. I was going to do a lead sled production this morning. However, not that we are afraid of the Gollum food. We are not. We enjoy that fun stuff. What we're concerned with, if you recall the last few that I did, which was a few months back, they kept getting interrupted and broken. It's not a good signal there, and the stupid thing would freeze, and I couldn't turn it off. So it was a disaster. The only time I can do that is late night or very early morning when there's nobody else using the lame cell tower signal in that area, okay? So don't take it personally. We still love the lead sled and that background music. Well, now. All right, so what NPR was talking about is, man, a lot of propaganda. It was incredible. They were talking about a few things. One is how Trump is the macho man, and he was talking about the height and weight of Governor, what's his name, Kemp down there, who weighs, he's a light little guy, I don't know, according to Trump, and that Kemp said he played offensive lineman. Like, the little guys don't play offensive linemen. So Trump was making a point about this in football terms. So he's right. And then he was saying we have to get rid of the weak Congress people. And he's right. You know, so is this macho or is this willpower or what? You know, but they're trying to spin it that this all instigated the, what are we going to call this? The intrusion into the Capitol. As opposed to looking at the, oh, and then they said that there's planning. And that Gab had lots of people there planning for violent things on Gab. And now this was a second piece, and they were planning on it, and now they're targeting Gab. And I'm trying to remember this guy's name, but it's a Roman Catholic name, of course. And let me think for a second. Was it with the Southern Poverty Law Center? It was one of these, you know, free speech kind of liberal, left-wing, radical places that want to control everybody else's speech while screaming about free speech. Those guys. And basically they're targeting Gab now because look at what happened. Twitter has blocked out the President of the United States, removed all kind of factual stuff that people are coming out, and opinion stuff on vaccines, stuff on research on masks, stuff on epidemiology, virology. Twitter's knocked all that down. Anybody challenging it on Twitter is gone because whatever, Facebook, all of these guys, you know the routine. So now they've moved from Twitter. They went to Parler. Parler magically gets shut down by Amazon. And then what happens? Everybody goes to Gab. So now they're targeting Gab, and they're going to want to shut them down or try to impose liability on them because they're a platform, and these guys should be liable for what? The hate speech and what is he calling it? The incitement. Okay, interesting. The platform should be. Well, that'll be an interesting argument and exception, wouldn't it? So does that mean that these other places are too? Incredible what's happening. Incredible. So that was all spin-off of number 4, avowed hardcore leftist arrested for inciting violence at Florida Capitol. Let's see if there's bail on him. Number 5, and this is one from Cheryl Thompson. I have to shout out. She's trying to learn how to play violin. I played cello for years, right? Now, cello, string instrument with a bow. So you get infinite sustain with the bow, both on the violin and the cello. And in fact, the electric guitar, by adding sustain, has really become a violin. But that's a whole fun discussion for another time. Jimi Hendrix turned it into a violin. What? Sustain the bow. But guitars have frets, violins don't. But she's having a problem breaking a string. I'm like, make sure it's in the right tune. You shouldn't be breaking a string, but you definitely destroy the bow hair on the bow, right? That always happens, and you trim it, and it gets wild. If you watch any excellent violinist, you'll see bow breaks, especially when they're, smashing away on it. So you see that flying around, and the rock violinists or the jazz violinist, Jean-Luc Ponty playing violin. That's a nice visual with the bow hair flying around, right? All right. That was our commercial break. Back to the news. Michigan voting machine questions continue. This is an interesting little grab, right? So Shaw put this in. So the court, this is from the Gateway Pundit. Check this out. The judge orders the Democratic Secretary of State to release the communications between the Secretary of State office and Dominion, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Google. So we're having discovery. Does mainstream media cover this? What would Liz say? No. Fascinating. Now, I pointed out, and she put that in a comment yesterday, and I pointed out, well, if this was a criminal proceeding, subpoenas would have had that information produced already. So this is further in the delay, but at least the judge isn't letting this slide. Fascinating. So that's good. That means all the cases haven't been dismissed. Excellent. That's number 5. Number 6, campers, is Mike Adams' theory on the troop buildup in D.C. This is the thing I was telling you about. Now, this is on his channel, Brighteon, which is his platform, which I have to commend the guy. And I mean, Mike is doing good. He's made a fortune, or a large fortune. I was going to say a small fortune. We'll say a large fortune, doing his Health Ranger thing with his vitamin supplements, nutrients. And that's probably why Paul Cottrell is following, because they're friends. So Paul, he's trying to do that, keep the fear porn going, and buy my vitamins to protect against George's theory of, wait, there we are, battery. George's theory of spraying bioweapons. That's the theory. Okay, that works hand in hand. Anyway, Mike here, the troop buildup in D.C. He does a whole discussion on this, and for the last few days he's been running it out. There's a lot of drama here, and absent a Club K attack, we're not going to have Chinese troops here. That shit's not going to happen. Now, other people have made the suggestion that if you have riots and civil unrest and they start a civil war, that Biden will call in the UN troops. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't think our military is going to be so amenable to that. Nor will the citizenry. Those blue helmets would be very interesting souvenirs, wouldn't they? And then people, oh, they're going to take the guns. Whether you're going to take the guns. Tomorrow they're going to do that. Yeah, right. That's clearly their plan. We all know that. And the plan is it's going to have to be a slow erosion of that. Now, until they can establish domestic terrorism and then label everybody and then have law enforcement enforce that, that's going to be part of it, right? It'll be an erosion. It's not going to be like, who's going to show up at the gun owner's door and say, we're here to take your guns? I don't think so. Do you? Those would be some brave law enforcement, and I don't think they're going to send SWAT teams to people's houses. It's just too absurd. No, they'll do it through a slow erosion, have police and law enforcement come and arrest and interrogate people who they're calling domestic terrorists. And now with the AI and the fake bullshit, you never know what they're going to put up anywhere about anyone. And that's going to get ugly and stupid and fast, all right? Now, so that's Mike's thing. And I think it's overall an informative and entertaining show. The list that he goes through of the equipment and the different troop divisions that are in Washington, I don't know where he's getting that info. And he said also the Secretary of Defense is calling up governors asking for more troops. So they were at 25,000. They'll be at 30, 35,000. That's a whole lot of soldiers to be there. And this bothers me. And I'm like, why? And George says it'll be the green zone. I don't know. We'll see. This is what I'm talking about, the popcorn. We get to the point where it's like, all right, you're ready, let's watch the show. But like I said, I don't do popcorn, that's stale. Let's do goobers and raisinets. We'll call it a popcorn party, but we'll eat goobers and raisinets. All right. Go to Yankee Stadium at a Yankee game, you know, they got hot dogs, fudgy wudgies. Yeah, there you go. Those got beer here, all that good stuff. Hawking that. You got to eat all of it, so you have a complete empty wallet and a stomach ache at the end of the show. And hopefully the Yankees win. What do you do if they lose? Then your whole thing is miserable. A fun time was had for all. All right, 7. This is also from Cheryl. Amazing. Cheryl does definitely hit these interesting things. This might put a twist on things, and I see it not as a complete negative. Biden's pick for the CIA director. You want to watch this, right? Link number 7. And his wife, right? This is from thesun.com. William Burns is his selection, and his wife, Lisa Carty. Why do they always have different names? Are they hiding themselves? Is this war through deception? Both of these guys have very interesting ties. Now, Burns is not a CIA guy, but he was a State Department guy. So now he's going to go in and run the agency, presumably. And his wife was very involved in the Gates Foundation and other things. Take a look at this article. Now, then Biden's comment about this is interesting. I'm thinking this guy is more of a, shall we call him a civilian, than an agency insider. So I don't know, part of my delusional mind sees this as hopeful to say, well, maybe he's unaware of the depravity, and maybe, big if, right, he can clear that garbage out. Maybe not. But he was an ambassador, so this is the theory that Biden is articulating, that as an ambassador, he knows how to relate to other governments, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see how that plays. But check out the wife, and you always remember, look at the wives. Right? And then number 8, our last link, is Mr. Blackberry's YouTube channel. And this is from a couple of days ago. And I think he got popped on Twitter, and I think Meg sent me his Twitter link, which I don't have here for you, but we can track him, and I'm going to see if I can find him. I was planning on, well, I still do. I need to do some stuff behind the scenes here. And but this is no time to take a break. We're just getting to the curtain is about to rise. So I'd like your thoughts on the crazed scenarios that could be coming down in this Washington thing with this massive troop buildup. All right, and then we'll say, oh, I did complete my thank you notes. I should have said that at the beginning of the show. I did that yesterday. And, man, I had to reach back to, like, there was one from December 13th. Okay, now I had hit most of them, and I missed some because that, don't forget, was crazy. I was in the midst of the scene of dealing with my mom, Christmas, and Piglet, and just like overwhelming with all of the, disruption occurring in the media and everything else. So I apologize, but Ferial out in Amsterdam, another Amsterdamer. She is an American expat, originally from Florida, a musician. So I sent her a link, and we had a chat a while ago. And she said that they're going pretty nuts there, and that the cabinet resigned in Holland. Isn't that curious? So there's some wild shit going on over there. I'll check with Virginia on that too. And then I noticed the other day in our international department that Berlin had an election, or Germany had an election yesterday, because don't forget that Merkel had announced that she is stepping down. She did that a couple of years ago, and that full election comes up in September. But there was an election yesterday to determine, I'm not sure who in their game. I'm not sure of their structure. But it may be the person who was the opposite of her, so who was much more nationalistic. So I haven't heard anything on it, and I didn't follow it, but this is all happening overseas. This is curious, right? So I was just shouting that out. So I got out the notes to everybody, and that was the oldest one, and then there were several right around December the 24th, 25th that I hadn't responded to. I brought everybody current. I even said additional thank you notes to people who have been regular supporters, just to thank them again. And I mean it, and I am very grateful and appreciative of keeping the boat afloat, and that is great stuff. And I encourage you to all contribute, and the patrons as well. I've got Patreon up to speed. I got a couple of nice contributions yesterday, and I responded to them, so I'm all up to date, and we're good. And there's something else in there. So, but that was the main thing, you know. So I caught that up, and I guess we cleared the energy block, so we are back on track. And I just feel it's important because we have a good community here, you know, and I felt bad not reaching out to the campers and acknowledging them because we do have a close system, and that's good stuff. All right, guys. Again, if you like the thinking, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. And we're growing here. I didn't put anything back on the other channel, and anybody who doesn't know where here is questionable at best, because if they watch the last one, I think that's the whole discussion. All right. Okay, thank you much. Time check, almost noon East Coast time on the 17th of January. Check these links, and let's think about why there are so many troops up there. And that Club K is interesting. Why are those port deals still allowed to stand and not shut down by national security? All right, campers, that's what I've got for you. PayPal link is there. Patreon link is there. And I appreciate your support, and I thank you. All right, we'll be back at you later. FJ out. Bye for now.